Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So, after a long discussion over 3 periods, I think we have put on the YouTube the later 2 classes. The first one was very preliminary. We are now going to make an entry into the text of Shiva Sutra. And this is one of the foundational books of Kashmiri Saivism. And this is a book, not it, there is a lot of philosophy, but the purpose of this book is actually spiritual practice or sadhana. So the way you would see the Yoga Sutras, for example, even though there is a lot of philosophy, the terms used and what are they referring to is always kind of oriented towards sadhana, upayas. And I had told you in the last period we had discussed you have Sambhava Upaya. So that is, and then you have Anava Upaya, and in the end, in the middle, you have Sakta Upaya. The Anava Upaya is in fact meant for the Sambhava Upaya is in fact meant for the superior or best among the sadhakas. The Sakta Upaya is meant for the Madhyama sadhakas, or the sadhakas who are qualified in the middle. They are neither too bad, neither too good, and those who are slightly in the preliminary state, they are supposed to do the Anavopaya. But actually, you might find even the last category in Shiva Sutra, the sadhakas, might be way ahead of what we are these days in our daily lives. So, there are two radically different connotations of two first sutras. We will do the first sutra, but we have to refer to the second sutra to be able to understand the first sutra. So we can do Ucharanam. The first sutra is Chaitanyam Atma. So you can do Ucharanam in yourself. Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandhaha. So he's saying that consciousness is the self, awareness is the self, and Jnana, knowledge, is the source of bondage. You might get very, very confused because in Advaita Vedanta, everywhere they say Rite Jnanam na Kavyaliyam. In order to get liberation, you have to have Atma Jnana. What are these people trying to say? They cannot be too much in contradiction with the received wisdom in our spiritual philosophical tradition. Why are they saying knowledge is the source of bondage? There must be something secret in it. And that secret we will understand. So, to understand these 4 words, Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandha. Just look at it. Chaitanyam Atma. You have an A at the end. Jnanam Bandha. If you add the second set of words to the first set of words and make it one sentence, it will be Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandha. So Atma Jnanam, they will be together. So either you can split it as Atma Jnanam or Atma Ajnanam, because A is A. You can do that Sandhi. So if you bifurcate these two words, that word Atma Jnana, it can be Atma Ajnana, Chaitanyam Atma Ajnanam Bandha. Then you will feel very satisfied, because that is also same thing what Vedanta says. So Advaita Vedanta says, everybody says that ignorance is the source of bondage. That is one way to look at it. Sanslesatmaka. So you put these two words together, then instead of saying Jnanam Bandha, you are able to say Ajnanam Bandha, easy to understand. What if somebody says Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandha? Then that becomes a loaded kind of a statement, and there is a lot of confusion in it. How to make sense of it? What they are trying to say, first you see, when you say Chaitanyam Atma, Ajnanam Bandha, first we have to understand that word Ajnana. What is Ajnana? If we can understand the word Ajnana, then we can also make sense of that sentence Jnanam Bandha easily. Mark my words. So, some way they are trying to say, in a certain state, Jnana itself is a mode of Ajnana. Or you can say that one form of jnana alone is pure jnana, a perfect jnana. All other jnanas are almost as bad as ajnana. You remember in Vedanta, we had used this word, Varavidya, Aparavidya. There are so many sciences like astrology, agriculture, physics, chemistry. All these are vidyas, but these are about the material universe, the immediate reality which you are capturing through your senses. An extension of your senses would include, for example, the telescopes, right? And microscopes. These are extension of your sense organs. You are trying to help your sense organs with a microscope or a telescope or sensor to see hear the sound which you cannot hear with your naked eyes. Then you have a sensitive, sensor who can capture that. Any vibration it will capture. All these are kind of extensions of our sense organs. But what he's trying to say is slightly different. Agyana here doesn't mean jnana abhavaha. So also in Vedanta, agyana doesn't mean absence of jnana. If you refer to a person, he's not man enough, or you say amanisha, or you say amanava. What are you saying? He's amanava. It could be that he is physically a human being but doesn't have the human qualities. He's inhuman. Why? Because you're comparing him with animals. So animal is also inhuman or non-human, so to say. But jnana is not, or jnana or ignorance here is not non-knowledge or absence of knowledge. No, it's not that. But what is it? No. Ajnana here is basically mentioning, because the moment you say ajnana means jnana abhava, this what lakshana, this particular definition will also apply to a tree. It will apply to a piece of river, a cup of water. These are all jnana bhava. Wherever there is no jnana, it's ajnana. This book is jnana or ajnana? It's ajnana. This computer is ajnana. This book is ajnana. This pen I'm holding is ajnana. Do they have birth and death? Do they have papa and punya? What bondage are we talking about? Bondage word is referring to the subjection of our beings, our jivatma, to innumerable births and deaths and sukha dukha in sansara. We don't even know these Jadavarga, how much they experience, what they experience, what sort of course, consciousness is everywhere, but what do they experience? Where did they store it? How do they suffer? How do they enjoy? You have no idea. Therefore, here, ajnana essentially means what? There is a particular form of jnana. It's bhabatmaka. Even in Vedanta, it is a bhabatmaka. It is something is there that is ajnana. Ajnana is what? Inappropriate jnana. Same way here, ajnana is referring to what? Knowledge which is relative to anything is apurna jnana or ajnana. What is pure jnana? Is that pure awareness which pervades all other knowledge forms and awareness forms. Let's imagine X is that awareness, or A, that A, quote unquote, is that pure awareness. That A is there in A1, A2, A3, A4. What are these A1, A2, A3, A4? Awareness of physics, awareness of chemistry, awareness of ethics, awareness of politics. All other awareness, all these awareness are limited by space and time. They would be there in one person, it could be there in 4 5 people. Awareness, they will have a beginning, they will have an end, these awarenesses. But that pure awareness is sarva anusyuta, sarvatmaka, sarvagata, sarvasta, all pervading. Like Bhagavad Gita, they said sutre manigana eva. It's all pervading, omnipresent. That pure consciousness, that is the real jnana. So anything other than that is a jnana. And that kind of a limited edition of what is pure jnana is bandhakaraka. And we'll have a little more discussion on that, but we had to somehow the other make sense of it before we elaborate more on the first principle. Because the opposite, Chaitanyam Atma, that pure consciousness is the self and that liberates you. By being able to understand it, by meditating on it, remember that this is all about sadhana. Meditating on what will get liberation, understanding what we will understand all other forms of our awareness, all other forms of our emotions, our thoughts, everything. There is one underlining principle which is all pervading, and that is that pure awareness. This awareness enables us to be aware of all other thoughts and emotions and episodic cognitions. Cognition is an event. All other cognitive events and processes, their subject matter, their relations, everything, there is one pure consciousness that enables us that to understand it. Okay, that is what he's trying to say. So this is how we are trying to move forward. So whenever that jnana, that what is a knowable thing, padartha, sthana, desha, guna, nama, that dualities are coming. Locational, time bound, and then there's a particular object of your awareness. When you have all that, that is one kind of jnana. The other one is sarva anishyuta, sarva rupa, sarva sthita, sarvakara, chidananda ghana, sarvatma, paramatatva. That all pervading, pure, all encompassing, integral, comprehensive. That awareness is the other one. When you have jnata, jnana, and jnana, right? Knower, knowledge, process of knowing, and the known, subject matter of your knowing. These are the things you have. These dualities are existing. Then that jnana is apurna jnana. That is restricted, that is limited. And therefore, that is not full comprehensive jnana. And therefore, that is not Atma. So he's now saying Chaitanya Atma. So he's taking us towards that. Okay. Now, moving forward, what is Chaitanya he's trying to say? Chaitanyam Atma. Now, if you ask yourself, when you have that pure knowledge, it is not knowledge of anything. When you say this is blue, he is a good guy, this is not a good person, he is kind, this is a wonderful subject, this is lovely knowledge or lovely feeling, this is a lovely poem, this is good music. Whenever you are adding something to this, you are not referring to that jnana. There is a duality. And because of this duality, you are trapped in a limited consciousness. And then you are trapped in samsara, the outside world of objects of your perception, objects of your experience, and you lose them, you get them, all sorts of anxieties, losses, and gains, all that happen because of this. If you are able to see that the outside world is also pure consciousness, the outside world is also a manifestation of that pure consciousness, and your knowledge of the particulars have in their substratum that pure consciousness out of which everything is made. If you are able to reach there, they are saying, not in a Vedantic way. The Vedantic way will say that, oh, all this is lie. Brahman alone is real. The Kashmiri Saivite goes one step further. He's much more aggressive. He's much more confident. You know what he's saying? He's saying, I don't have any problem with the samsara. I have a problem with the way all of us are looking at it. We are not seeing that absolute awareness pervading everything. Almost similar as Advaita Vedanta, except that they accept the samsara as real, not as unreal. Because this is abhikrita parinama, like Brahma Parinamavad of Ramanujacharya. The absolute has manifested the samsara is a tiny part of the absolute consciousness. Similarly, the Sivadvaita, in a different way, are more or less saying the same thing, that all this, because of the divine play of Lord Shiva, Paramashiva, all these have manifested, they have spread out, the diversities have become visible, they appear real, and they are real. I don't have any problem. Except that when we see these as different from Lord Shiva, that pure consciousness, then we have fear because we are trapped in limited consciousness. We are seeing the world of restrictions and limitations and distinctions and separations and differences, endless process. The unity can be achieved only when we realize Chaitanyam Atma, and he's going to expand that. So he's saying Agyanam, why should we know that Chaitanyam Atma? What is the purpose? What sadhana are we talking about? He's saying Agyanam Sansritir Hetur Jnanam Moksheka Karanam. Same as Advaita Vedanta. He's saying this aparipurna jnanam, apurna jnanam, incomprehensive, knowledge which is non-integral, which is not comprehensive, which is restricted, limited. As they say, little learning is a dangerous thing in school days, you remember, we used to ask to write paragraphs on it. Is essentially saying this in sophisticated philosophical language, that knowing about this diverse material world, about specific things, you don't get that fullness of yourself. And therefore, you have that problem of loneliness or alienation. You many times, just imagine, old age will come and we are ill and you are in bed and you are going to go. We have to die anyway. So far, the physical body is concerned, if we describe ourselves as this gross physical body, this body has to fall and we have to go. So we will have fear of separation, we will have fear of death, and all these are an outcome of a limited understanding of our existence and the world of reality around us. Therefore, he's saying if you are able to see everything as a modification, is a projection of that same divine consciousness, then your loneliness is gone. You can see yourself as part of that divine thing, and he will take us further. How does that happen? Chaitanya Mahatma, by meditating, that is the self. First, there is these particular things will be explained one by one. First thing is called Sarva Chaitanyavada. Everything is consciousness. Mark the difference. In Advaita Vedanta, all of this is Brahman. In what sense? Badha samanya karanataya. Badha samanadhikaranya. Badha, badhita. So, tattvam asi, you are that. You are a jiva, you cannot be God. But the jivatva will be badhita. You'll only take the consciousness in us. The underlying consciousness, the underlying pure consciousness, which is there in the jiva. Jiva adjective is gone. Kinchit kyatva, alpa stitimatva, alpa kalavasthitatva. All you remove all this limitation of time and space and location and all that. If you remove, what remains is pure consciousness. There, that Ishvara, Vachya, is Ishvara. Tat Sabda Vachya is Ishvara. Then you remove Sarvagyatva, Sarvasaktimatva, Sarvastitimatva. You remove all these qualities. That it's everywhere, it knows everything, it can do anything. Remove all that. What remains? Pure consciousness. This is equal to that. That is done through Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana or Jahada Ajahada Lakshana. So Ayam Devadatta, that little boy who was your classmate, who didn't have any mustache or anything, and both of you are wearing half pants and you're playing football and fighting with each other. Now he's a gentleman who has a wife and 2 children. So have you. And you're meeting him. And you're saying, so I am Devadatta. That boy who used to play with me is now, he's an entrepreneur and he has 2 children, he has a wife. But that boy is not here. He was less than 4 feet and this guy is a tall chap. He was a little boy. This guy has sons or daughters older than what he was. But you remove tatta, that particular, all the qualities, tatkala vishishta, tat desha vishishta, all these adjectives, what he was at that point of time, those details remove. That is birudhangsha parityaga, remove them. What do you have? He is now a grown-up person. He has wife, 2 children. Remove them. What remains? That particular Devada Tattva, that Dharma, that guna of a guy, he's son of Mr. One, Mr. X, and he comes from that village, he studied in this school. These commonalities are there by which you recognize him as the same person. Similarly, you recognize yourself as divine consciousness. That is the Vedanti process. Here what he's saying, that look here, it is Sarva Chaitanya Vada. You remember that beautiful verse when we do Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Cheta Nitya Vidiyate Namastasya 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 Namo Namaha. in the Devi Stuti Chandi Pata when we do. So see Chetana, Chiti Rupena, Krishnam Etam Dapya Stita Jagata. So remember these three words are there. Chitta, Chetana, Chaitanya. Prakashaka, Prakasaka, Prakashya. There is a torchlight, there is light, there is a torchlight. It has light. This light is illuminating the computer screen. The computer screen, of course, is illuminated by light within. Let's look at the book. So the book is Prakashya, it's illumined. The light of this table lamp is Prakashaka. The light is Prakasha, right? Illuminator, illumination, and the illumined, illuminated. These three things are there. Now, Chetana. Atma, you can say Chetana. Chetana is Prakashaka. Chaitanya is Prakasha. That is the consciousness aspect of it. And Prakasita or Prakashya is what? Chitta, the Buddhi. That Chitta is Prakashya. You are being awareness. You are being aware of your knowing something. You are being aware of your own cognition of something. You know that you know X, Y, Z. That particular thing which the Nyayikas call Anuvyavasaya Jnana. I know, I'm aware that I know of this. So they have a particular technology, technical term for it. Here, what he's trying to say is that Prakasaka Chetana, how can Atma be Chaitanya? Chaitanya is Prakasha, is something related to Chetana, which is Atma. Atma will become his dharmi. He has that attribute. And how can dharma be confused with the dharmi? How can you say Chaitanya Atma? That is what he's trying to explain. So, first you have to understand that ajnana or ignorance creates false, faulty desires, faulty understandings, faulty perceptions, and therefore you have a craving for this samsara. You like a lot of things in this samsara, and you have limited understanding, limited experience, which means always feeling deprived of fullness. And this deprivation of a fuller understanding, fuller experience, fuller happiness is the cause of alienation, cause of the agony and the anxiety that we have as human beings, always feeling unfulfilled. The secret lies in understanding what is the reality of this consciousness, and he's saying Chaitanyam Atma. So, whenever you have this duality, everything that you see that is different from that pure consciousness or the Shiva, everything is manifest out of Lord Shiva. So, we are keeping 5 minutes for meditation on Lord Shiva or Devi or anything, and then 23 hours and 55 minutes for the samsara. He's saying, okay, fine, you be there. But all 24 hours, if we are able to realize, there will be no missing out on anything. Once we realize that this is verily everything is Lord Shiva, then there is nothing to miss out on. So your whole life becomes a kind of Shiva awareness or prayer to the Lord Shiva and connectivity with the divine. So you are divinizing the whole gamut of your experience and actions and everything. We're slowly going there. So what is this Atma? If you look at the Lakshana, you have this pure Chaitanya. You have, we have said, we studied in the introduction, you have that Chiti Rupa, Ananda Rupa, the attributes of Atma. Chiti, Ananda, then what? This Chiti means Sarva Vyapakata, omnipresent. Ananda Rupa, Nityata. And then you have Jnana Sakti, and then Kriya Sakti and Ichha Sakti, the willpower, the desire, the will to do anything, and knowing something, and Kriya Sakti, translating that into activities and getting results. These are 5 aspects of it. And then you have Swatantriya and Vimarsha, that Maya Sakti, Swatantriya, and then Vimarsha that he creates and everything, that meditation. He's saying, okay, I understand that. These are different aspects, or there are different points, like Gangotri is a point, Devprayag is a point, Rudraprayag is a point, Rishikesh is a point, Haridwar is a point, then Allahabad or Kasi is a point. All of this is Ganga. I'm talking about the pure Ganga. I'm not talking about any particular ghat or bank of Ganga. Therefore, he's saying in all these manifestations of Chaitanya, whether it is Ananda Swarupata or Chiti Swarupata or Kriya or Jnana or Icha, Swatantriya, Vimarsa, in all this, what is the underlying common principle? What is the common principle which underline all of this? That is Chaitanya, pure consciousness. That consciousness is verily the self. That is what he's trying to say. So, whenever you have duality interfering with your awareness, that pure awareness, it becomes particular. When the universal consciousness becomes particular, it's limited to a particular objective perception, objective experience, the problem starts. So, we'll cease to live, because to live is to relate to the particulars. When you want to speak, you will speak to somebody. When you want to think, you will think about some object. When you want to feel, you will feel something. How to live? How to live and yet get Shiva? How does that work? He's saying, no. You do all that, all these are happening, but constantly remaining aware of the pure nature of the consciousness is to be aware of the self. That is broadly that what is they're saying. Okay. So the question now, how is Chaitanya Atma, which is Dharma? Atma is Dharmi. He's saying no. That is the meditation here. There is nothing called Atma. Atma is not an object. Atma is not a material thing that you are looking for in yourself. Where is your Atma? Can you show it to me? How do you meditate on it? To reach Atma, to have Atma Jnana, the Vedanta says that there are certain Lakshana Vrittis to understand what is Atma, which is in the Upanishads. You read them, you meditate on them. The Kashmiri Saivism, the Acharyas would say, no, let's look at it like this. The contemplative power you have, you contemplate on your own very contemplative activities, and what is common to all contemplative activities is that pure consciousness. That is the dharma which lights up all other experiences. That source light which lights up all other experiences, all other feelings, all other thoughts, are you able to feel that? It has the capacity to light up your self understanding. It's like a lamp which lights up external objects but also lights up itself. The lamp, it's an earthen lamp, you can see the contours of the lamp, how big it is from above. It lights up other things, it lights up itself. Similarly, this Chaitanya throws prakasha, sheds light on everything else, including that chitta. That is the interesting aspect of it. Therefore, there is a beautiful thing. What is that all-pervading? What is that all-pervading Chaitanya? So he's saying it's a pramata vishesha, is that awareness which is aware of all other episodic awarenesses. These are time-specific, space, location-specific awareness of different objects and experiences. This awareness with capital A, that capital A awareness is what underlies everything. Sivadi bhinnam atmanam swatmanasya shivam tatha bhasayanti vispuranti sakti chaitanya muchyate. That Sakti Chaitanya, which is kind of lights up all other experiences, and it lights up everything. It lights up your chitta and everything. That's what he's saying. So, to put it in very simple words, all other awareness or consciousnesses that you have are largely episodic in nature, event specific. This consciousness is without a beginning and an end, and this is the all pervading, all encompassing, that mega, great, grand, universal consciousness. That is the Chaitanya. And there is a beautiful saying, why to meditate on this Chaitanya? What do I get? Why should I meditate on it? They say, Chaitanyat sarvam utpannam, jagat etat characharam, chara and achara, moving and non-moving, material, whatever you see. whether it's plant kingdom or animal kingdom, whatever you see, they have all come out of that pure consciousness. What is that? That is the Shiva principle. That Unmesha, Nimesha, creation, destruction. These are all moods of that pure consciousness. Using that Maya Sakti or Swatantriya, it creates things for what? For fun, for its own krida, nothing else. Then he's saying everything is immersed out of it. Then Tasma Sarvam Paritajya Chaitanyam tu Samasrayet. See, this is Vedanta in a different way. What is the author is saying? Very something beautiful. This is most likely is taken from, I think it's Bharadaraja's, no, this is Siva Sanhita. So the interesting statement says that out of that pure consciousness, this whole manifest world, that consciousness here is that universal Paramashiva consciousness. That supreme consciousness, by sweet will, using its Maya Sakti or Swatantra Sakti, its autonomy, the power of its autonomy, has become outwardly oriented. Its outwardly orientedness, the outcome of this outwardly orientedness is the manifest reality that we are facing. We are also part of that Shiva consciousness, except that because of ajnana, because of layers and layers of mala, they will say impurities, we are not being able to relate ourselves to that supreme principle of Shiva consciousness. Therefore, we see ourselves as limited and we are trapped in a very, as Thomas Hobbes says in his Leviathan, life becomes nasty, brutish, and short, and a war of all against all. There is no security. That is what is normal life. And we are trapped here because of that limited consciousness. And we are always restless. We're looking for security and peace and happiness. And there's an unending yearning, that whole stride. It's unending. There's no end to it. And the more and more you try to secure yourself, the more and more you're feeling lonely and outsider within yourself. You're feeling helpless. Sometimes you're in control, but the moment you think about it, you feel flabbergasted. You feel powerless. But everything is an outward manifestation of that supreme consciousness, which you are. You are also a manifestation of that supreme consciousness. Therefore, he's saying, even though he's saying that pure Chaitanya Sakti, even though it is free from action and is asanga, okay, is kriya rahita and asanga. Asangoyam purusha, that Upanishad says. It is not attached to anything. But with identification, it can take any form. It's like the ocean becomes Pacific, Indian Ocean, right? Similarly, or Atlantic Ocean and all that. Similarly, that pure consciousness, which is universal and unending, because of identification with names and forms, a bit of Vedantic language is involuntarily coming through my mouth because we all the time do Vedanta. That pure consciousness, what they are trying to explain is because of this identification, it takes these forms. It appears as pramata, knower, known, is taking these forms. Therefore, he is saying what? Drashta desimatraha suddhopi pratyanu. That is, he is taking from the Yoga Sutras. So even though it's Kriya Rahita, that pure consciousness appears as if it's doing anything, appears as if it is having an object, there is a relationship. It is pure, it has no relationship. But we imagine we have relations, and that means in Vedanta language, we are dealing with a relative or a phenomenal world. And this relative phenomenal reality, the best example would be that actually 25 people or 40 people or 300 people are aboard an aircraft. Okay. And in that aircraft, they are all actually flying, let's imagine, from New Delhi to New York. But within that network aircraft, you have the air hostess bringing food to you. You are moving forward, you are moving backward. What is moving forward and backward? All of you are going in one direction. So that's a relative micro world of reality in which you are sitting, you are stable, you are moving, but actually all of you are moving. Similarly, because of that pure consciousness identifying with different relative modes. It appears as doing something. It takes names and forms. That is what he's trying to say. So that is Atma. That is Atma. That pure awareness itself is the Atma, is the self. That is what he's saying. And that Atma is actually conscious. But we are referring to the Atma as consciousness because that is the only way through which we can be aware of the Atma. What is Atma? We don't know. We can touch there. But we can meditate on our own awareness, and that underlining supreme awareness, universal awareness, is the gateway to our realizing what is the nature of ourself. And therefore, there is Utpala Deva, he says, there's a beautiful sentence there, Atmata eva chaitanyam, chit kriya chiti kartuta. So this kriya and karta, pramata, knower, knowing, process of knowing, it's all pure consciousness. These are modifications of that Chaitanya. Vedanta almost says the same thing with a different set of languages. So, through Chaitanya, then, which can take the form of action and will, by the pure, its pure existence, however, is not getting restricted or limited because it's assuming different names and forms. Please understand this. The ocean doesn't cease to exist because it's appearing as high tide or low tide. Because of its appearance as waves, the pure water continues to exist. Similarly, the pure awareness, that Paramashiva Tattva, continues to exist even as it takes different modes or forms, it undergoes a lot of modifications. So, to be able to realize that underlining universal consciousness, universal principle of existence, of purity, is the key, the handle that we have to be self-realized, to be liberated. Therefore, there's this beautiful sentence here: Chaitanyam Atmano Rupam Siddham Jnana Kriyatmakam. Chaitanyam Atmanaha Rupam. This Chaitanya is the Rupa, the Swarupa, the pure nature, the Lakshana of Atma. And what it appears through? Jnana Kriyatmakam. It either takes the form of knowing something or doing something or willing something. Tasya anabrita rupa tvavachinatvam kena varyate. But however, because it takes the form of will to action or cognition, its pure form cannot be denied, cannot be refuted. That pure form remains, and return to that pure form of consciousness enables us to find ourselves. Sounds very philosophical, a little abstract, but if you think about it, morning to night, we are doing 25 to 30 to 80 things. Hundreds of ideas are coming to us, hundreds of emotions, they appear and they disappear. And he's saying, beneath, behind, above, around, these eventual process elements of our consciousness and the modifications, these waves of the consciousness that we represent, that consciousness, that pure consciousness, is what we need to meditate on, seeing that as an essential part of the whole universal grand consciousness called Paramashiva consciousness. If we are able to see that, then our life becomes part of the divine play. We stay united with the divine. We do not get affected by the play. A good example to give: there are a bunch of children watching a magician perform some tricks. And there also is a little boy who is the magician's son. And there's a little girl who is the magician's daughter. They are also sitting with other children. And he's performing a few magic tricks. And other people are anxious, and the little boy and the girl who are his children are calmly watching the show because they know what it is. There is a little boy, this magician comes and stabs him, putting him in a black bag or something. and some blood comes out, and everybody is in tears. Children are fearful. They are scared of this man. This boy and the girl have no emotions. They are just watching their dad. The show is over. They pack everything, help his father, that particular country magician, to pack his bags, and they earn the whatever people throw the coins or money at them. They collect the money and they go. The devotee of Lord Shiva here is like that. He's watching the game of the master, remaining steadfast in his devotion to Lord Shiva, not as different from him, but he sees himself as part of the game. That magician's whole game, these children are sometimes brought into the game. Maybe the father picks up that son and puts him in the bag and asks the daughter to bring a knife and stabs the son. Everybody is crying, they're fearful. Then the son comes out again. Sometimes this boy and the girl participate in different magic tricks of their own dad, but they are not affected by it. Similarly, when we are constantly established in that divine consciousness, and then the text will take us further, it becomes easier. That is the sadhana pada, that is the trick here, that is what is mentioned. There are a few ways in which this word Chaitanya is further elaborated in Kashmiri Saivism. Chaitanyam Atma. There are so many texts which are written. So you have to refer to them to bring them together to make sense of this particular sutra, because there are just two words here. So Chaitanya Srushtivada, everything is born out of consciousness, out of this Chaitanya. And Sarva Chaitanya Vada. The other one is everything you see is Chaitanya. But as for Vedanta, it's very easy to understand. Look at this. There is a highlighter pencil, there's a ball pen, and there's a highlighter. These are all made of plastic, isn't it? So you can say these are all plastic artifacts, right? Now look at these words. Chaitanya Srushtivada. Everything is born out of that pure consciousness. Anything which is born out of pure consciousness, what is its nature? These are all forms of consciousness. Anything that is born out of consciousness is a form of consciousness. That consciousness has undergone certain modification. And that is appearing as a pen or a book or a human being or a man or a woman or love or hatred or whatever. That is pure consciousness manifesting in different forms. Therefore, he's saying one is Sarva Chaitanya Vada and is Chaitanya Srushtivada. Everything is born out of consciousness, and therefore everything is consciousness. To put it in simplest language, Chaitanyat Sarvam Utpannam Jagat Etat Characharam Tasmat Sarvam Paritajya Chaitanyam Tu Samashrayet. That is the advice. Meditate on the pure consciousness. Meditate on that pure awareness, because everything it's a kind of metamorphosis of that pure consciousness without any change in it. This is just a metamorphosis. And Vedanta says it is a projection. They say that yes, there is some kind of a abrikrita parinama. There is no bikara in Lord Shiva. He's playing a game. Magician doesn't undergo any change. He creates that magic. Therefore, take shelter, take refuge in that pure consciousness. Chaitanyat sarvam utpannam jagate tat characharam asti chet kalpana idam. If you say sansara is there, it's real. Yeah, it's a good imagination. Nasti ched asti chinmayaha. You don't accept the sansara, not a problem. The Chinmaya Satta is all there. If there is Srishtikala, everything is God. Everything is Lord Shiva's consciousness. If it's Pralaya Kala, pure consciousness anyway is there. Lord Shiva is always there. Whether we are there, we are not there, with our names and forms. Lord Shiva is there. We are part of that Lord Shiva. Either we appear or we disappear into Lord Shiva. We are always there. So that is how the fear is removed. Then, if you look at it, what Shankaracharya says, there is some similarity. Jnatri Jnana Jnana Shunyam Anantam Nirvikalpakam Kevalakhanda Chinamatram Param Tattvam Vidurbuddha. That is what Shankaracharya says, and more or less they are saying this in other words. Now, so if you look at that pure consciousness, Paramarthataha, it is Ananda, bliss, Aishwarya, Sachidananda Swarupa. So this Aishwarya and Swatantriya, Maya Sakti, that is, which is Paramatmanaha, of that Supreme Consciousness, Lord Shiva, Muksham Swatantriyam, Aishwaryam, Isitritvam, all these are relative. There is a master, there has to be a slave. There is a teacher, there has to be a student. These are relational definitions of the Supreme, that he controls us, he manages us, he creates us, he destroys us. But what is his Swarupa? It's Anya Nirapakhyatvam. He is actually related to nothing, is above all imaginary relations, because this is a magical appearance. In the flip of his hand, he just wishes and all these things appear, we appear. Nimesha, Unimesha, we appear, Nimesha, we go back. Therefore, that pure consciousness, that is the Swatantra, that Chaitanyam, that Swatantra itself is Chaitanya. And what is Swatantra? That Paramashiva. That Swatantra is there in Paramashiva. Okay? And everything else, all of us, are Paratantra, dependent on this divine play. We are dependent on something. The Lord is Supreme Lord, is completely independent, not dependent on anything. He doesn't require anything. He can create or destroy anything he wants. Right? That is how we're saying. You can now ask one question. Why should have so much of importance of the word Chaitanya? What is the need for it? I can do worship of Lord Shiva. Why are you emphasizing on the word Chaitanyam Atma? Because in Advaita Vedanta, this person will say there are a lot of Upanishadic statements about Atma. That Atma is Nitya, Desakala Vastu Paricheda Sunya. We have this definition in Advaita Vedanta. It's Nitya, right? Permanent. Vyapaka, Sarva Vyapaka, all pervading. Amurtatva, it doesn't move. Achaloyam Sanatana. Murta means anything which moves. Anadyanantatva, it doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. Vibhutva, Vibhutva means what? Again, is subtle. It's not constrained by any spatial outline. Is Vibhu Padartha. Sarvakartutva, it's omni, omnipotent. And Sarva Gyatritva, omniscient. Sarva Aishwaritya, it's blissful, it has the wealth of the whole thing. Why shouldn't we talk about these definitions of Atma? Why are we emphasizing on the word consciousness? The answer is, if you're talking about Nitya, for Nyayakas, Akasa is Nitya. The universe continues, right? The space, you cannot create or destroy space. They are also Nitya, they are also Bibhu. So there are so many things where these definitions also apply. But these are Jada. Akasa is Jada. It doesn't have consciousness. The material universe doesn't have consciousness. We are talking about that spiritual consciousness, that primeval principle on which everything appears. These are all weak, parinama, abhikrita parinama in the language of Kashmir Saivism, because of that divine play of the Lord. That's why Chaitanya. So you may find these attributes elsewhere. That doesn't make them God. That doesn't make them that pure Atma. Therefore, the moment you have talking about Atma, you're talking about Chaitanya only. If Chaitanya is there, all of the manifestations can appear. Chaitanya not there, even if they appear, first thing, where will they come from? Who creates them? You need that pure consciousness to create anything. Therefore, it is given. That is the importance is saying. Then there is a discussion about different forms of this Atma, It can be one. Obviously, consciousness is one. Then it can become two. Prakasharupa, Sankocha, Abhasharupa. It gets limited, restricted and limited. And something shows it up, illuminates it. So it can be two. And it can be three. With upadhis, that Anava Mala, right? Because you become a jiva, you become Anu Matra, and that Anava Mala, Maya Mala, that Maya Sakti, Maya Mala, Karma Mala, regarding action, that Karma Mala. When you are wrapped in these envelopes of impurities, that very Atma becomes threefold of three kinds. And then again it becomes four. It can be Sunya, Prana, Sarira, Puryashtaka. Puryashtaka is a word which refers to Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Panchatanmatra. That subtle form of Panchabhuta, Panchatanmatra. So these are technical details. Similarly, there are 7 kinds of pramatas. Lord Shiva is the knower. It's pure consciousness. It becomes knower of what? Knower of what is known. And where does it see the known? In its own consciousness. Lord Shiva is seeing his own face, but there is no external mirror. He is seeing his own face in his own consciousness, and that is Maya Sakti. What is Ma Parvati? What is Durga? Lord Shiva is becoming consciousness in himself through his Maya Sakti. That is what it's all about. It's a very cryptic, very esoteric, very philosophical, very mystic reality to meditate on. So it becomes Shiva, Sadashiva, Ishvara, Suddha Vidya, Vijnanakala, Pralayakala, Sakala. So that is how it becomes seven types of nodes. And this Atma word will appear a few times in Shiva Sutras. First, he will say Chaitanya Mahatma, the first verse. Then, second chapter, again, he will say Atma Chitta in the second chapter. Then you will say Atma Nartaka, he will say in the third chapter. You see, he changes his language again and again. Changes. Because depending on the Adhikari, who can understand it, he gave a very, very philosophical, very mysterious, mystical explanation of what is the Atma in the first chapter. But he will give some kind of an explanation which is easily relatable in the last chapter, because that is for the preliminary sadhakas. Now, before we sort of bring it to a close, whenever there is a definition of what is Atma, there will be Vidhi Vakya and Nishedha Vakya. Any new students come to your college, you join any college, you join any organization, your guy appointing authority, the HR department, will give you a code of conduct. What are the do's and what are the don'ts? What you're supposed to do in the organization and what are the things you have to avoid? What are the areas of sensitivities? Similarly, Chaitanya Mahatma, when we do the meditation, to get a fuller understanding of the self and be self realized, we need to keep away from our attention what is not Atma, what can confuse us as Atma, because of which we may get trapped. Isn't that right? Therefore, he's saying, what is Nishedha? What is Vidhimukha? Chaitanyam Atma. That is the Vidheya. He's saying this is what you should meditate on. What Atma is not? Atma is not the body. Sariravada, the Charvakavadis, they will consider not Panchabhuta. They don't accept Akas or space as a material reality. They only have four bhutas, Chaturbhuta. And then they're saying, like you have somebody takes alcohol, there is intoxication. Similarly, if these four elements come together, Chaitanya, that biochemical changes happen and it behaves like they are materialistic scientists. They will say this, there's a body is Atma. It dies, there is no rebirth, there is no Papa Punya. And they make fun of these traditional Brahmins saying, you're wasting all your time. All people who believe in the Shastras, why are you doing all these karmas and kandas and nonsensical thing? Go have fun. Yavat jivet, sukham jivet, rinam krutva,ghritam pivet. What is Swarga? He said, Nari Alinganam, very simple. I have a simpler definition. Hug a beautiful girl, that's like heaven. Wasting all your time doing these yagas, sitting next to fire, burning your thing, getting badly tanned, sitting close to fire. What is this nonsense? So, but body is that Atma is not Sarira. And prana, sometimes it's all prana vayu. Is it Atma? No. Is it mind? No, because you say, my mind is this, that. It cannot be mind. It is Sarva Anushyuta. It's also in mind. It's everywhere because everything is a modification of Atma. Then Buddhi, then Putra, sometimes you think your child is your Mere Jan, my son is my life. Nothing like Indriya. Some people worship the sense organs. They are Atma. No, they are not Atma. And Sunya, the Bodhavadis, and then Vijnanavadis, that intelligence, that is Atma. All these are refuted by the expert acharyas of the school of thought. And finally, they will bring you back that there are two aspects. That Chaitanya is the Swarupa. What is the real nature of this material reality? It's consciousness. The modified form is the material phenomenal reality, which is dynamic, which is moving, is not moving. Paramarthataha, the underlying supreme reality is pure consciousness. That's number one. What is the Swabhava? Swabhava is also Chaitanya. So both the things. So Jiva and Jadatmanoho Vishwasya Paramasya Rupam Chaitanyam Eva Swabhavaha. Our very nature is divine. We call ourselves sinners. We are trapped in this samsara. We suffer because we don't recognize our divine nature. So, Swarupa and Swabhava both are pure consciousness. That's the whole thing. So, Lord Shiva, that pure consciousness, is the Atma of this whole world. And that itself is pure consciousness. Lord Shiva is not somebody who is holding a trident and he has this bull and all that with a lot of, you have these locks and he has hair and he's meditative. He has a fantastic appearance, very masculine. A lot of people get fascinated by his appearance. There is no such appearance. Why? Chaitanyam Atma. Lord Shiva is Atma and he's Chaitanya Swarupa. Where is name and form? Does he have any form? He has no form. He's beyond all forms. He pervades all forms, but he himself has no form. Chaitanyam eva swabhavaha vishwasyatma paramaseva eva atma prapanchasya iti kathyate. So therefore, all this is that. So he says what? Paramatma swarupam tu sarva upadhi vivarjitam chaitanyam atmano rupam sarva sastreshu kathyate. So he concludes, the Acharya sort of brings this whole commentary on these first sutra of Siva Sutra, Chaitanya Mahatma, saying that, look, you have to, this Chaitanya itself is the body of this real world. The phenomenal world, the outer external world, is what you relate to, and that is material, that is external. But the reality of it is pure consciousness. Why? Because first of all, you are part of that supreme self called Lord Shiva. It doesn't have name and form. The sansara is a modification of it without any real modification in Lord Shiva because it's his game. And therefore, this Atma, this Chaitanya is also the body of this whole sansara. Externally, you see this material forms, names, etc., but it's pure consciousness. That is another interesting thing. And when you say aham idam pashyami, I am seeing this. Aham idam. So I am looking at this highlighter. Aham is different from idam, what I see. He's saying this idam is also pure consciousness. Aham is also pure consciousness. The perceiver, the perceived, and the perception. All these are different modes, different modifications of that pure consciousness. It's very mystical. And therefore, he would further take it, if you look at it, Bhagavad Gita, he says that Kshetranga is inside and outside. Similarly, he's saying that Chidatma, that Lord Shiva, that Parama Shiva is outside and inside. What is outside and inside? Relative to our mortal, our small, restricted mind, we have to use this language. It's like two water particles telling another 5 water particles, this ocean is outside and inside us. 2 water particles are having fun, a conversation with another 4 water particles. This whole ocean is inside and outside of us. They are no different from the ocean because relative to their micro existence, they are making sense of the integral, all encompassing existence. And that's how they have this language. Therefore, that Chidatma is inside and outside this Jagat, all that you see, and it's there. So, this is how we have crossed the time. I stop here. We'll go to the next verse, and we have already done a bit of discussion on that. Jnanam bandha. Jnanam is not pure knowledge, is that episodic, limited, restricted, flashes of cognition of something, related to something. This is always limited and restricted. That is the cause of bondage, where that jnana takes the form of purna jnana, takes the form of that pure awareness, then that has the ability to liberate us, and we will look at it in our next class. So I'll stop here. Let's do the Shanti mantras. Any questions, please feel free to put it in the group, and then I'll come back incorporating answers to your questions in the next class. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. By the way, Nileji or Ashwini ji or Prakash ji, anybody, any of you have any questions? No? We stop here. Any questions, Nileji?
No, nothing today.